Hello, thanks for tuning in to another episode of All Wheel Driven. I am your host, Joe Kucinski. Each episode, we dive into the latest Audi headlines and offer both a recap and our perspective on the stories that are shaping the brand. In today's episode, I am joined by professional snowboarder, NBC Sports analyst, and lifelong Audi enthusiast, Todd Richards. Todd's going to discuss with us today how Audi became part of his lifestyle, why Quattro has been essential for countless mountain adventures, and shares us some stories about his vast collection of Audis, including everything from an Audi 90 Quattro to a rare B5 RS4, multiple TT RS models, as well as his newest acquisition that he just picked up about a month ago. Welcome to All Wheel Driven, a podcast by Audi Club North America, where we explore all things Audi and the incredible people who bring it to life. All Wheel Driven is presented by XPEL, the official paint protection film of Audi Club. Let's get into it. Todd, thank you so much for joining, and welcome to the program. And tell us a little about yourself and your first Audi.
Oh, thank you very much. I mean, this is pretty cool. I've been an Audi fanboy for quite some time. And just, to kind of like back it up and where did this whole love affair begin? I lived in Boulder, Colorado. I moved there from Massachusetts in 1990. And what we would call the traverse from Boulder up to Summit County or Vail, depending on where you were snowboarding that day, you would traverse I-70. And there would be a multitude of snowstorms, inclement weather, whiteouts, slick roads. And on multiple occasions on that traverse up to the mountains, I would be passed by this white Audi wagon in basically blizzard conditions. And the dude that was driving it just looked like he was having the best time ever. And it just kind of became this thing at such a young age when I'm trying to get a career going, and I just, what is the goal? And the goal to me at that point in time was be able to traverse Interstate 70 in Quattro with snow tires. And that's kind of where it started. And that was like, I just lusted after any Audi from the old 90 coupes to, my first real Audi purchase, which was a 90, I think it was a 1996 90S with a sport Quattro, red with the 5 spokes. It was awesome.
Wow, that's great. And so, how old were you roughly then when you got your first one?
25 or 26. At that point in time, the snowboard industry, there was a lot of money in it. It was like my first major purchase with making decent money, and it was like, cool, I'm gonna do this. And it just like I said, the start of this cascading line of pretty much have only driven Audis since 1995.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, nice. Do you still have that original Audi today, or have you shifted it?
No.
Okay.
that got traded in on one of the first B5 A4s.
Oh, okay. That's awesome. So, how often have you got to use the Quattro in the snow? I would assume with your career that you've done that quite a bit, right?
It was a staple. There's nothing quite like a car, and especially some of those the older Quattros, not like the Haldex based systems, but like the old Quattros with a set of snow tires. And you're kind of unstoppable as far as that goes in the snow. Especially, of course, you're going to get super deep snow that you can't traverse because you're high center. But I mean, as far as having a car that feels really, really planted in the snow, that's so important to someone that literally has to get to the ski resort for a living. And it's just confidence, whether it was driving to the airport on some snowy day or whatever I needed to do for my career at that point in time. It definitely ticked that box for sure.
That's awesome. So, so you no longer have that particular Audi, but you've got quite a few. So kind of talk us through your Audi garage a little bit, if you don't mind.
Well, the Audi garage as it stands right now, like I've gone through a ton of different cars from holy grails to project cars to all kinds of things. The two cars that are sitting in my garage right now are my wife's. She has a Q7, 2018 Q7, and I just got a new to me RS6, which is like a huge moment, like the shining thing on the hill that I've been pushing towards for quite some time. And I'm very, very excited about that thing. It's the fastest couch that I've ever owned.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So Todd, so tell us a little bit about that buying experience of that, finally getting that RS6 Avant. What was that like?
My good friend who lives in the Bay Area, he had bought an RS6 and would basically tease me with it all the time, showing me everything that he's done to it. He threw way too. He's basically one of those guys, no kids, very high paying job, not really a slew of responsibilities like the rest of us that have a family to provide for. So he would just throw his money at his car. And he did everything to this RS6. And he basically was like, look, I think I'm moving to Italy. Do you want to buy my car? And it was a crazy deal. And I couldn't say no to the deal. So I basically just bit the bullet, jumped off the edge of the cliff and committed to it. Flew to Reno, picked up the car in Reno. He showed up, met me in a parking lot at a coffee shop and gave me the keys and said, see you later. I'm going on a bike ride. Have a fun drive home. Now the drive from Reno to San Diego is, it's about 9 hours, give or take, depending on traffic. And yeah, I got to know the car really, really well on that drive home from Reno. And it's a good way to acquaint yourself with a car, for sure.
It sure is. So talk us through some of the, you said he's done a lot to it. Talk us through some of the mods on that particular car.
So his deal is that he knew that he was going to mod the car, so he bought as close to a base model RS6 that he could get. I mean, it still has a lot of the features on it, but like he didn't opt for the sports exhaust. He didn't opt for the carbon ceramics. He got the sports seats and a couple other things, but he knew that he was going to start throwing things at the thing. So he ended up retrofitting carbon ceramics on all four wheels. He did a titanium Miltech exhaust. It's a stage 1. It's had every little programming thing done that you can, as far as like, the matrix headlights and the video in motion and the blah, blah, blah. A bunch of stuff I haven't even figured out how to even dive into yet. He went as far, he got E-codes for it from Europe. He went as far as to replace the visors with the European visors that don't have the stickers on them because the stickers bothered him, which is a wild thing. He did a full stud conversion on all four wheels. There's like this set of 22 forged 17-pound wheels that are on it, mono 10s. There's a lot. There's a ton. He did intake and intercoolers, and it's just like I'm kind of finding little things every day that he's done to this car, and it was a very ambitious list of things for sure. So yeah, it's very, very cool. And I'll say this is like the car that I was coming out of getting into the RS6. I came into an 2018 8S TTRS that was a nicely sorted stage 2. No crazy Hank Iraz wild numbers. I just wanted something that was fast enough for me, not looking for quarter miles. I just wanted something that was like point and squirt. I'll say that the TTRS was fast. No, I should say the TTRS was quick. The RS6 is fast. And I do believe that there's a big difference there. Sure. as far as that goes.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That's awesome. That's great. I need some more friends like that. Mod up their cars, and
everyone needs those.
Right.
It's just they just unload their cool stuff that they've already maxed out on you. It's great.
That's fantastic. And you're certainly no stranger to modified Audis either, right? So the TTRS or the TTRS you mentioned had some mods. You had a B5 S4 Avant as well. Had some mods on that. Can you talk about that car a little bit as well?
Yeah, the quest for this is kind of right around the same time that I ended up acquiring a B5 RS4. And this was like, old Audi World days before Quattro World came into being. And, it was like the big thing was a stage 3. You were basically trying to make a B5 RS4. I ended up buying this Imola yellow, which I still think is the best, the premium color for the B5 S4 or even the B5 RS4 wagon. It was just so cool. And I just had a nicely sorted stage 3. And I was just LARPing as an RS4 owner at that point until I ended up actually having the opportunity to purchase a B5 RS4 back in the day. And that was game changer.
Yeah.
Game changer.
Yeah. Yeah. How did that car come to be? Grab it. Was that something you always wanted? Was it something that was just an opportunity and too good to deal to pass up?
It kind of goes back to, when the B5 RS4 was first announced. It was like I had seen an RS2 on my travels to Europe, and I didn't even really know they existed. And this is probably like 3 or 4 years previous to that, right when they came out. And I had no idea. I just liked Audis. I wasn't ingrained in the history and like what was coming and what was new. And I had seen an RS2 in Europe, and I just tripped out. I was like, this is everything. This is a wagon. This is a fast wagon. This is at that point in time, it was the collaboration between Porsche and Audi. It was very prominent on all the badging and the brake calipers and everything. And I was just like, I have to have this. And I actually I called the Audi dealership in Colorado and I was like, hey, how do I get this to the US? And they were just like, you can't. So stop. And this was way back in the day when there wasn't a lot of people bringing Audis in. It wasn't the 25-year rule didn't exist. And there were so many hoops and fences you needed to climb to actually get, our car from Europe into the US. So fast forward a few years, the lust for the high horsepower wagon began to exist. Tried to make one, as we'd see everyone in Europe driving around on these, B5 RS4s that just looked incredible. And so Josh Decker, one of the founders of Quattro World and the tag board, he somehow had gone down this rabbit hole with an importer out of Florida and began the process of bringing in a B5 RS4 into the US. And it wasn't without a lot of drama. There was talk of him having to actually steal the car back from a federalizer at one point. There's a lot to this story. So Josh and I had become friends just through Quattro World, or actually through Audi World at that point. And he was like, look, I've got too much into this thing. I need to get rid of it. It's like the burden of my life. And I was just another one of those things, like the RS6, it kind of just fell in my lap. And I was like, oh my God, like this is a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity, and ended up purchasing it. I actually traded for a portion of the cost. I traded Josh a C6 S6 that I was kind of trying to turn into an RS6 at that point. And yeah, and then I ended up driving, same kind of deal. Gave me the keys, drove home from this house, and was just like, what the hell just happened? How am I in this? Like, it's just like you fantasize about a car for so long, and then you drive home in it, and you're just like looking around like, what am I doing?
Right.
Like, what is happening here? And it's just like, it was so weird for so long. And that car, like, still, I regret. I actually sold it back to Josh. So it went full circle. But yeah, I regret selling that car every single day. When I got that car, it had 9,000 miles on it.
Oh, wow.
It was a mint, and I'm talking mint condition B5 Imola, excuse me, not Imola, Avis Silver B5 RS4. That thing, like, there was no creases in the seats. It was immaculate.
Wow. Wow. And how
Yeah.
many miles did you add to it during your ownership?
I put when I sold it back to Josh, it had 40,000 miles on it. So I did, I enjoyed that car quite a bit. Drove up the coast to like my in-laws live outside of Palo Alto, and I would drive the one in that car a lot. Um, Ended up throwing a lot of mods at that car as well. I think at one point I was going to put RS6 turbos in it, but I didn't. But I did the upgraded the intercoolers, upgraded the exhaust, upgraded the intake. Yeah, I think the brakes, I put Alcons on it. Some super light BBS wheels that were on there. It was just great. That car was awesome.
That's so
It was
cool.
pretty perfect.
That is
Yeah.
that's amazing. You certainly don't seem to be the that's good enough stock type of guy. You always like to make it your own. Is when
No,
it comes in.
it's an affliction for sure. I think it started back in the day when, I put tint on the windows, and then it was like over. As soon as I like learned that you could put tint on windows, it
Right.
was just like this.
What else can I do? Right.
Yeah, totally.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So those are, some of the enthusiast Audis, enthusiast models that you've had. But you mentioned it's your wife that has kind of the sensible the Q7, maybe the unsung Audi hero in your
Yeah.
garage. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the workhorse, and this is the third Q7 that we've owned. This one is the one that has the most miles we've ever put on an Audi. It's got 111,000 miles on a Q7, which, I tell people that all the time, and people are like, "Oh my God, you need to get rid of that thing right now." And I'm like, no, I want to see how far that we can go on this thing. And it's very thirsty for oil at this point in time, which is fairly known for the 3.0 engine. But as far as like some other weird gremlins that I've just like learned to live with, it's a solid workhorse.
Yeah.
Very solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is that kind of the daily for the family? Is that, what you use most often?
It was definitely the daily when I had the TTRS, because fortunately slash unfortunately, you could only fit two people in that car. And, so we would by default end up taking the Q7 everywhere. But now since the RS6 has come into the picture and I just want to drive that thing everywhere, we're constantly taking that car. But yeah, it's, if we're going to Home Depot, the Q7's the car. If we're all going to the mountains, I've got a nice set of really good snow tires for that car as well. And it is a tank. That thing is a tank.
Nice. That's great. That's great. So I'll go off script for a second with you. I'm just curious with so you've had these some really great Audi models. You've modified a bunch of them to make them your own. How does that the thrill of driving those Audis? How does that compare to your snowboarding career? Like how does that align to you?
It's funny because, I went through my track stint where I was like, going to the track every other weekend. And in Southern California, there's actually a track on the way to the mountains, like from driving from San Diego to Mammoth Mountain. You kind of pass by Willow Springs Raceway in a roundabout way. So I was kind of getting both at the same time. And I will tell you that the thrill I get from having a really good track day with, a properly sorted car that will, you're not breaking any lap times, but you're just having fun and you're safe. It's the same as dropping into like an X Games half pipe run. It's
Wow.
the same thing. And it's just, I highly suggest to everyone to have a track day or get driving instructions so you know what the limits are of your car.
Right.
Because if you, especially in winter driving, you get into a situation where you have to react quickly, and you need to know that your car is going to behave in a predictable manner. And it's kind of the same with snowboarding. You kind of throw yourself into all these different situations so that when you get into the situation that's maybe a little bit outside your comfort zone, you know how to react to that. And so they parallel themselves a lot. I think in every little kid wants to be a race car driver at one point. That's That's how it goes. Speed is addicting. It's the sudden velocity deceleration that really gets everybody. But this speed part is awesome.
It sure is. It sure is. That's fantastic. Did you find that your the skills that you've grown from snowboarding translated to the track? Do you think that helped you on your like first track day?
Absolutely. It's line choice, and um, you know, driving on the track is all about weight transfer, and snowboarding is the same thing. And being able, if you have that kind of, if you already have that eye for the line within any sport, I think it translates really easily over into um, into driving. I was lucky enough. The late Ken Block was one of my best friends, and Ken and I, we came up snowboarding together before he discovered this whole rally thing on a weekend gift from his wife for his birthday. So you can see that like that was actually in practice with him, because he kind of went into this thing with a lot like a line choice from motocross and from snowboarding. And it is true, like you're seeing through lines, and on the track things come up on you so quickly. It's as soon as you look, you're there. And that's the same with snowboarding. If you look at it, you get fixation, it's there, in the best of scenarios and the worst of scenarios. So just being, having that wherewithal, I think definitely carries over into track driving for sure.
Right, right. Do you still participate in that? Do you still do track days or not as much?
I don't, because tires and brakes are really expensive.
That is true.
Yeah, and there's a million other things that I'm currently dumping money into. So I wish that I had like a hollowed out just track car that I could leave somewhere and show up and blow up,
Right.
basically.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think someday you'll be there. I think someday looking back at some of the cars you've had and your experiences, I think a dedicated track car is in your future for sure.
Like I said in the beginning of this, I have a lot of friends that have way too much money for their own good, and if you can use their cars, that's the chef's kiss.
The only thing better than having a race car is having a friend with a race car, right? Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So you've owned a number of different Audis and from a number of different generations. What do you how do you think of the brands evolved through the years, right? From the '90s when kind of were driving your first Audis till today, and I guess your RS6 is probably your newest Audi, right? Model year wise. What do you think the brands? How do you think it's evolved?
Man, I got a lot of opinions on this one. Buttons. I want buttons. That is the biggest pet peeve that I have these days is the lack of analog tactile feel in modern Audis. And I think that was something that was just so great about Audi, and it was just part of their brand. It was like the clicking of their buttons. Their buttons had a certain click that no other car brand could even come close to having. And we kind of lost that in this race to having an iPad drive your car for you. The the absence of a manual option in cars is another one. I mean, I understand that a lot of these cars are such high horsepower now that it's actually safer for the car to be given, a dual clutch or something like that. But, I can't for the life of me understand why, you're looking at Porsche, who's like, they are now pushing the 6-speed as like an expensive add-on to the car. Like, instead of like, this was like the lower base model.
Right,
now
right.
they're like,
Yeah.
hey, we're giving you this special.
Yeah.
I just think like an RS3, like, come on, that car is built to have to row gears in.
Right.
And same with the TTRS. The 8S should have had that carryover option from the previous generation's model, because that was one of the coolest things about that car, was just having a 5-cylinder attached to a 6-speed manual.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the big things. I think, going from the old Quattro system into, these, well, of course it's gotten smarter, but then we kind of had the weird Haldex front wheel drive bias thing that isn't like, don't put the Quattro badge on the car if it's not really Quattro. Like, so there's little things in and around there. I remember after having my first Audi, and Audis at that point were a lot more square. They had, there was a lot more defining angles. And I remember when the first B5 A4 came out, I was like, that thing is weird looking. It's just so round. And, I think we just adapt and adjust to what we're seeing. When the first Q7 came out, it was just so radically different than everything else that was on the market. And it was just so special. And I think Audi's had a really great run of like when the first TT came out, it was so radically different. The R8 came out, it was like made everyone lose their mind. And we kind of, I don't know if it's Audi or if it's just me getting older and liking what I like and being stuck in my old curmudgeon mood, but like I start to see these new cars come out and they just they look like maybe the designers looked at every other car around and just said, let's make all of that in one car, instead of like trying to like take their own road where, cars are like, they're really Audi. They don't look like, oh, I see a little bit of a Kia in there, or I see, you know what I mean? Like that. And obviously new designers come in, new designers leave. I recently heard from a little birdie that I know at Audi that the designer that put all the buttons in put all the computer iPad-y things is no longer with Audi anymore. So it's like, but we'll have to wait a generation to start getting, the results of that. But the biggest thing is tactile feedback and more of driver interaction with the vehicles instead of the vehicle just driving you around.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing that I've seen kind of change within the Audi brand over the years. I'm not saying good or bad,
right?
But the RS6 is a wonderful car that I feel like still will let you get in trouble. For sure. With all the nannies that are in there, that car will definitely let you get in trouble. And which is a great thing. I think people should have, there shouldn't be guardrails everywhere.
Sure. Yeah. Especially on the, on the top enthusiast models. That's what they want, a little danger, want a little risk, right?
Right. Like when the R8 came out with the rear wheel drive R8 and they're in the swan song of that, like, hell yeah, give people an opportunity to scare the living crap out of themselves. Like that's feel.
Yeah, for sure. Now, have you been, we talked a lot of your Audis, you've had the wagons, you've had the sedans, the TTRS obviously is a coupe, but how about like the supercar thing? Have you ever been drawn to the R8 or the new Nuvolare? Does that do anything for you, or?
The Nuvolare is so interesting to me because it harkens back to when Audi dropped the first concept for the R8 way back in the day. And I was like, what is that weird looking thing? Or what was was it the movie, I forget, iRobot, where they initially dropped that like kind of like, this could be coming in the future. And I was just like, that is just like, that is not cool. But I mean, that car, like based on what they're saying it could be, it might be like the next generation of supercars. But getting back to like talking about the R8, I love the R8, especially the gated
manual.
Oh my god!
Right,
like that car. Still like the holy grail is to have a gated V10, and there's not a lot of them out there, and they're selling for ridiculous prices on Bring a Trailer, etc. But I've had a chance to drive. There's a tuner shop called Tag Motorsports that is close to me, and the owner had one of those for a while, and they just kind of like, if you're a good customer, they kind of just let you take their cars out and rip them around. And that car, I've never felt so clamped to the ground. Actually, no, you know what? I had a track day. I did an Audi Experience track day and got to drive. It wasn't the gated V10, but it was the dual clutch V10. And that, it's like a go-kart. It's like driving a shifter car. That thing, it's really hard to upset that car. It's just so, the faster you go, the more planted it gets. And yeah, like I would love to have one. I don't know where I would drive it because I feel like driving to and from work in that car, doesn't, it's like you're wasting, it's like having a stallion in your garage. It's like, why is that horse in there? Like that horse wants to run. So it's, I would love to have one someday, but I feel like that would be a car that I would want to track
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So now to some of the impossible questions for you, Todd.
Sure.
The favorite Audi you've ever owned? If you had to pick
B5,
one. Yeah.
B5 RS4 by far.
Okay. Maybe it
By
wasn't
far.
an
It was
impossible
just,
question.
yeah, I mean, it's because of this, like that car was so special at that time in the US. I believe when I had that car, the count was 4. There was 4 of them in the US. Hoppin Motorsports had one. This guy Jack Silverman in Aspen had 2 of them, and then there was one other one in Florida that I don't remember who the guy was, and then mine, and it was, you felt like you were part of this club. Um, it didn't stick out, so that people that would come up, if you know, you know, um, and it was just like, it felt like every time I would drive that, I would drive around and be like, I have a secret and you guys don't know what it is. You know what I mean? Not only was the driving experience that cool, but I just felt cool because it was like, it's just like, you don't know, like, unless you see that thing. And I mean, I had seen a couple of those in Aspen, for X Games, and that's the guy Jack Silverman owned, an Avis one and a Noggy one as well. And I would see them, and he would just drive them around and like just drive them around in town. And I would come upon them and just be like, "Oh my God!" And the people that were with me would be like, "What are you like? What? It's a station wagon. Like, what's your problem?" And I just like sit there
Yeah.
and like walk around the thing. And like at one point, I stalked him. I left him a note. I'm like, "If you ever want to sell one of these things," um, but yeah, it just represented a time, I think, in Audi as well, where it was like the high horsepower station wagon was just something that was absurd. And that was the coolest thing about it, was it just didn't made no sense.
Right. Right. That's great. Now, hearing your answer to that question, I have a feeling I know what your answer to the next question will be, but I'll ask it anyway. So, what's the biggest ownership regret? Biggest regret?
Oh, the biggest regret. Well, of course, selling that thing was a big regret, but I think honestly, like, the biggest regret is the B5 platform and beginning to tune those things. It is a slippery slope, and there things begin to happen that are going to happen, and you learn phrases like the turbo lady, and like they're just like, these cars are, it's like, when you have a pet and there's an expiration date on this thing that you love. That was kind of how the B5s were, is like, these things are sick, but they're going to blow up at some point in time.
That's funny. That's funny. So, what about? Well, we'll ask some more favorites questions. Your favorite Audi engine?
Favorite Audi engine? I'm going to say the inline 5.
Yeah,
for sure. The Daza engine in particular, just because it sounds so good, it's so unique, and the power delivery stock is crazy. It has no business being as quick as it is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how about the Audi color? If you could paint, any car, any Audi color, what would you go with? Or does it depend on the model?
I'm such a nerd for Nardo. It's not even funny, and it's so lame because Nardo's so played out now, and it isn't for me. But like, it is, like, as soon as you start seeing, like, you know, every single car manufacturer has their version of Nardo out there. But you know, I think, probably Imola is like is my favorite over, like, over all the generations, and it does belong on some cars and it doesn't belong on other cars. I think too much of Imola is not a good thing. Like, I think if you had an Imola RS6 at this point, the RS6 is a big ass car, and I didn't realize that, like, until I first saw how how really it takes up a parking spot. Like you have to be aware. It's like driving a small truck. Um, you know, but that would be a giant Imola billboard, and the too much Imola. So, but I do think that Imola on that B5 S4 RS4 generation was the perfect amount of car to yellow.
Right, right. Agree. How about a dream Audi that you haven't yet owned? What's the next one?
I think I'm driving it right now. I mean, I don't even, yeah, because I look at the RS6 GT. It's cool, but it like defeats the purpose of like there's no roof racks. There's no, I mean, no roof rails. Like, why do you have an R? Like, you can get far faster things that are cool. I don't know. Um, yeah, I think I have it in the package of the RS6. I mean, it's everything that I could possibly ever need. It like I find myself driving quite a bit slower. It's like you're an orca on the highway. You're an apex predator that can just take its time going everywhere. You look at every other car, you're like, I can squirt on that
Right.
one, I can squirt on that one. Like you just and you don't. It's
Right.
great.
That's awesome. That's great. How about so your favorite road trip? Was it coming home with that RS6? Or you have another Audi road trip that you think you would rank above that?
There's been a couple over the years. I did one in particular that this one is awesome for a completely different reason. I was driving from Lake Tahoe to Salt Lake City in an absolute blizzard. And we had just gotten the Q7, the 2018 Q7, and I had just put a set of brand new snow tires on it. Like that day, the day that we left. That trip and the confidence and just like because it was like one of those things where there's no cars in the road, there's like 6 inches of snow, visibility was still kind of good, but it was dumping, and I just had a great time driving quietly in the snow and just I don't know, for whatever reason, for I think it was just like having the confidence in those tires. I think I had just like I don't know, like just had an amazing week in Tahoe and was going to have an amazing week in Salt Lake of snow. And it was just like the most calming drive in the snow ever. And not at one point in time did I ever feel like this is sketchy. And it was hammering snow, like hammering snow. It was great. It
Yeah,
was awesome.
that is great. Maybe a related question. Favorite mountain drive you've done in an Audi?
Ooh, favorite mountain drive. I just harken back to like any of those times in my early Audi ownership where I was driving from Boulder, Colorado to like Vail on I-70, and you just you just have the capability to drive in the snow safely. I think those I really look back on the, and this is if you're familiar with I-70 in Colorado at this point in time, the old driving time from Boulder to Summit County or Vail was 2 hours. Now it's like 6 because of just population. So, and the highway just isn't big enough for the amount of people that want to go on it these days. So, it was just a special time. And that was my kind of my commute to work. It was insane that I would drive 2.5 hours, 2.5 hours every single day. And like, why didn't I just live there? I don't know. The gas was not as expensive as it is now, but who knows? But that was just my work commute, and it was great. And there was no cell phones, and you were in your car, and you weren't talking to anybody. You were just driving, listening to music, and it was great, great times.
What would your advice be to first time either first time Audi buyers or somebody who's thinking of being a first time Audi buyer?
If it's something that you want, do a lot of research. Get to know the colors, dive in, like get into I don't even know, like I mean Audi Zine still kind of is alive, like there's a lot of Facebook groups, including the Audi Club. Become part of those and just ask questions. If you have questions, ask questions. I mean, the enthusiast community, with the exception of a few bad apples, is a great place to just find community and get answers to even the dumbest questions. And you know, I'm a total nerd about a million things, Audi's included, and there are a million other nerds just like me that will sit there and talk about a headliner for an hour with you. And so there's places that you can go and get those questions answered, and maybe someone will tell you that there's a better option than the car that you want, you know?
Are you pretty involved in the Audi community today, or?
Not as much as I used to be, just because of time constraints, but with the RS6, you know, there's a lot of little questions that I have. You know, there's a slew of recalls on those cars for the alternators and different kind of things that need to be addressed here and there. And there's no better place. I mean, it's not like I would go to the dealership and ask them. They're oftentimes, I feel like us within the Audi community, we know more than the dealership and a lot of the techs do. And that's for better and for worse, because we don't know how to fix it. We just know how to talk about
it. Right. Exactly. I don't know how to operate on myself, but I know what's wrong, right?
But I can tell you exactly what's wrong.
Yeah, for sure. Any final thoughts before we close out, Todd? Anything you want to talk about from your Audi history, or little snowboarding stories? Anything that you want to hit on?
I look forward to what they've got in the future. You know, I think that we're going in a great direction again, with the dropping of the RS5 Avant, and the rumors that I've heard that it is in fact coming to the States from multiple unrelated sources that I've been tapping. I know everyone loves to talk about that as soon as they see a wagon. Say, is it coming? Is it coming? There is kind of a shift within Audi, especially for people like myself that love Avants, that they are now seeing, finally, after all these years, that we will in fact devour any estate that you give us here in the United States. So I look forward to that. You know, I look forward to the return of buttons and the absence of screens, so I can get smudgy fingerprints all over them. It's the bane of my existence at this point.
For sure it is. Yeah. For a lot of us, you're certainly not alone in that feeling. And Audi's not alone in populating screens everywhere. Every manufacturer's done it, and I think they're all facing the same blowback and are stepping it back. So.
You know, and I think the thing that kind of pushed me over the line was, we're looking to replace my wife's Q7 now, and you know, she wants to downsize. The kids are a little bit older; they don't need the third row anymore. So we're like, okay, let's get you into an SQ5 or a Q5. And I've been looking at older generation instead of buying new, because all these screens, especially, you know, the passenger has their own screen now too, which is like, look, we are just taking this fidget spinner, like everyone has to be on their phone, like just nervously connected to technology, to a level that doesn't need to exist. We're solving problems that don't. We've created the problems and we're trying to solve them. And I just feel like some of those older models where there's more like clicky buttons, like there's a huge generation of us that straight up will not buy a car with a bunch of screens in it. And I finally feel like Audi has realized, you know, there's been a lot of chatter about this. Auditography, the Instagram account, that, you know, he's been on this campaign about this for years, about like, stop ruining your brand, Audi. And I feel like, you know, we're at this point now where it's starting to move in that direction, where we can have this nice balance of technology and analog feel. And that's finding that sweet spot's going to be something I'm looking forward to for Audi in the future.
Right. Great. Yeah, I think we all are. We all are, for sure. Todd, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolutely. For everybody watching and listening, as a reminder, be sure to visit AudiClubNA.org for stories and regular news posts about everything related to the Audi brand. If you're not yet a member of the world's largest community of Audi owners and enthusiasts, we ask you to join and learn more about it in the description of the video below. Todd, thanks again for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and insight. And thanks again. And everybody else, we will see you next time.